What's up, guys? This is going to be the typical Ekko build for mid lane. Now let's get right into the gameplay. Alright, what's up, guys? So we're going to be showing you how to play the best mid lane assassin in Wild Rift. Really just the best assassin in general right now. And if you want to know what makes Ekko such a great assassin, despite assassins being a bit worse than they previously were because of the durability patch, one is his wave clear. His wave clear means that he can still lane very, very effectively and do really well into mages and poke champions when compared to other assassins. He also does better than the average champion into tanks, or better than the average assassin into tanks. He has pretty good 1v1 potential when fighting these tankier champions, and just in general, those types of things he's really good at. He has really good survivability because of his ultimate, of course, and the shield. And his ultimate cooldown is absurdly low in the early or in the late game, and is even pretty low early game. So this matchup, you can see I have never played this matchup before. This is my first time, so I was kind of figuring it out, and I'm into an Aurelia one trick. They have Aurelia in their name. That's how you know they're definitely an Aurelia one trick. But so yeah, we were definitely figuring out this matchup early, and we can kind of tell Aurelia is going to be a bit hard to deal with in the early game, mostly due to the fact that she's just really good in 1v1ing most champions. Here we're going to find the little pick onto the Camille. Don't really know what she was doing, but that's going to make a good start for us. But yeah, Aurelia definitely not one of the ideal matchups for the early game, I would say. And so we end up recalling here because we fell a bit behind in health. Notice how, because I only had about 450 gold on that recall, I buy the Aether Wisp for the Lich Bane instead of building boots, because it's going to give me additional damage. So it's going to give me a stronger early lane phase because I'm getting that damage rather than just getting the boots for the movement speed. I don't really need the movement speed because all I need is to use my third ability to dodge her third ability. That's pretty much all I'm doing. But early game here, we're mostly just focusing on using our wave clear, getting some poke onto him when we can. And typically, Ekko is a very roaming heavy champion. Because of the fact that his wave clear is so good, usually you can use that wave clear advantage that you have to just push as much as you can in the, once you're level 3, level 4, and then usually get a recall for mana boots. Once you get that recall for mana boots, then you more look for like something, to actually go and roam. So because we did fall a little bit behind in this early lane phase, we're just kind of clearing pretty safely, which is the nice thing with the good wave clear. It's pretty easy to just clear for free, and you don't really have to worry about too much. Typically as well, because of that wave clear again, you can often take advantage of this level 1 by using your first ability as soon as the wave comes, and then once your first ability comes off cooldown, you use it again, and you'll kill the entire wave. And so you'll hit level 2, and then you use that level 2 to then upgrade your third ability, and then dash onto them. So that's kind of a little thing as well, just to keep in mind in the lane phase. A typical trick you can do, it works especially well into mages and champions who aren't as good when you get on top of them. And that's why I love Ekko too. Ekko is a great counterpick to things like Syndra and Victor. Most people don't like playing into those champions, Syndra, Victor, with how strong they are. I love Ekko into those champions. Obviously, those champions are still really, really strong, but Ekko is amazing into Syndra especially. I would say he's one of the best mid laners in the game to play into Syndra, and so I definitely recommend it for those types of counterpicks if you ever need or anything like that. And you can see here, because I outscale Aurelia, I'm kind of cool with not doing too much. Like, sometimes when you do just have a good scaling lane, even if the enemy are pretty good early game, you don't have to do too much. And then notice how I just start pushing really hard here. Like, it was a bit later than I normally would, just because of the fact that, the lane went a bit differently. But notice how now I'm just like, okay, let me just push this wave, utilize my wave clear to then recall and grab my boots. I see my jungle there, so I'm going to go try to help him just in case, obviously, if anything happens. And so we just have one more wave. We just use our wave clear again here very easily, and we can then get our mana boots. So it's pretty much just kind of the name of the game is, you are not that strong early game compared to some champions, certainly on Ekko. And so if you can just wave clear over and over again, like, you're perfectly happy with that, there's really no issue there. And so we end up going on to the Aurelia because she goes on to us, and we just get out pretty easily. We had our ultimate, so we were never really in danger there. And you can see I'm only down about 100 gold into a bad matchup, which I'm perfectly fine with. And that's kind of the thing too. You can get through most matchups perfectly fine because of that wave clear. And so even though you don't see much happening in the early game, you're going to see the power of this champion later on. And then keep in mind again that in a lot of games, you're going to be roaming a bit more than I do in this game, just because of the nature of the matchup and the fact that I didn't really know how the matchup goes. I was kind of testing it because I just had, you don't see much Aurelia nowadays, and I'm a little newer to Ekko. I've probably played over 50 games of Ekko at this point now. I'm definitely really confident with this champion. I think I'm getting really good at it. But some of the more like specific matchups that you don't see as often, I've not played as much. And so here we try to find the all-in. Riven unfortunately misses the ability, so doesn't get it yet, but then we just get the Aurelia after that. And so you can see there again, the damage you have in the early game, really good. You have any follow-up from your teammates, you're going to be chilling. So again, pretty straightforward there, pretty easy to play so far. Unfortunately, we do get ganked by the Camille here. But we use our ultimate to try to escape. Notice how we waited till the end there. and we end up juking them, flashing out, and actually surviving. So you have some unique ways to escape like that. Notice the patience there to then juke them with the ultimate, everything. But you can see the early game, the Kai'Sa is super fed. The Kai'Sas, I think the Kai'Sa Nami are both sovereigns, like good sovereigns too, not just, I know you guys might be thinking, well, everyone's a good sovereign, right? But like these are sovereigns that I'd actually duo with or play with. But I've played with the ADC especially, and the Nami is pretty much the best Nami on our server. I mean, definitely the best Nami on our server. Her name's Catch This Bubble. So they're duoing both sovereign players, both like really good sovereign players who are just destroying lane, getting super far ahead. And so you're kind of going to see the power of Ekko able to maneuver against these really strong players, especially when you get like, you know, a really fed enemy AD carry on enemy team and things like that. So against really good players in this game, and we're able to have some really good impact later on in the game, which is kind of what I wanted to show you guys this replay for, is the later parts of the game, the strength there. Even if the early game, again, is a bit more boring here, but you can see, again, I'm already on my Lich Bane. Like, that's not crazy fast, but it's, you know, it's a decent speed. We just utilize the constant wave clear, just keep pushing and pushing. Unfortunately, again, the bot lane ends up dying again. The Varus not doing too hot so far. I don't know if they end up killing them. It looks like they might. They're pretty low. But notice again how we just instantly push the wave, and now I have the wave cleared before Aurelia because of my fast wave clear, so I can go bot lane, right? And this is the power of Ekko. You just have that permanent ability to really easily roam and out-roam your opponent because of the fact that you have, you know, the additional wave clear that's just a lot faster. I end up kind of messing up my second ability there, but we still end up getting at least a little bit onto that Hecarim, but mostly just assists so far. Again, just playing pretty safe, pretty straightforward game so far. Really not much to talk about in the early game. As I said, it's kind of a boring way you play sometimes in the early game, but it's kind of, you know, pretty straightforward, which is nice too, that this is typically how you just approach the early game. And then if the enemy do make a lot of mistakes into you, you can take advantage of that, but you're perfectly happy with the game going like this because you do scale really well as an assassin. So it's kind of nice to not have that urgency, but to also have the ability to get a lot of plays. Because I've had games where I do the same thing where I'll push and roam a lot, and then I end up being able to help my jungle, which is something I want you to keep in mind as well. When you are looking who to roam with or when to roam after pushing the wave, typically roam based on where your jungler is going. Because if you roam based on where your jungler is going, it's going to be very, very easy to have a 4v2 scenario or a 3v1 scenario with your jungle there and make a lot of really easy plays. So that's kind of the nice thing that you can do a lot of times when you're looking for those roams. And I've had plenty of games where those roams work out really nicely. And then we end up getting really, really ahead and snowballing the game. And then other games here where I don't get any of the kills, I just help my teammates out, get some gold, get a decent gold lead. Like I'm up 600 gold on the Aurelia. Nothing crazy, but a decent little start. And now we're just mostly focusing on getting to a couple items and being able to burst down the enemy later. You can see I'm going Infinity Orb here instead of Soul Stealer, as I told you guys to go. Second item, like when I showed the build. Main reason for that is just because I was testing out each of them. They both have their upsides and downsides. Infinity Orb is going to be a bit better burst damage wise to one-shot a squishy carry in the early game. But the Soul Stealer ult cooldown is going to be really, really nice. Or just the cooldowns in general are going to be really nice. So it's kind of a preference thing. You can really do either, and I wouldn't complain. I like kind of, you know, doing both, but I've overall kind of preferred the Soul Stealer. And then here you can see we're trying to catch out the Kai'Sa here, because now I'm really trying to get that shutdown on that Kai'Sa at some point. So I'm going for that roam opportunity, and then I'm going to see if I can possibly find an ult or anything. We end up flashing onto the Kai'Sa, trying to get enough damage onto her. Not quite able to do so. The main reason that I flash onto her is because I thought maybe Riven has the chance to follow up or something. And then here again, we're just looking for the Hecarim. We do grab him, and then our Rakan does get a nice engage on that Kai'Sa as well. And so even though we gave a lot up to Aurelia in the mid lane, because the game's kind of about shutting down that Kai'Sa, I'm okay with something like that. I'm okay with giving up a wave every now and again to try to find those opportunities to help my team. Now, most of the time, I would definitely recommend you guys to go mid lane and then roam. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes you find these unique scenarios where you feel like we have an opportunity to blow up in the game. And in that situation like that, I might try to do something. And even though nothing really worked out, you know, we just got a kill on Hecarim, nothing crazy. That's the type of thing I'm looking for that's going to allow me to potentially have an angle to come back or shut down this really fed Kai'Sa, who, again, I know is a really good player. And so, again, here, she gets greedy, and we end up getting the stun onto her. My Rakan decides to be the worst player on the planet. But we get that ultimate damage onto the Kai'Sa, and so we do end up killing her because of that ultimate damage. So notice how Kai'Sa just at one time gets a little bit greedy, and all of a sudden we get that huge shutdown onto the Kai'Sa, which is really what we were kind of looking for. So you can see how it ends up resulting in a positive play for us. Aurelia gets baited there by the second ability, tries to go in on us. Really nice kill there, and you can see the game starting to swing a bit in our favor. We're still down almost 2,000 gold as a team, though. So the job is definitely far from over because that Kaisa, especially with the peel from a really good Nami player, is going to be very difficult. But you're going to see again, we're going to see if we can find any kill angle. It doesn't really look like it's possible. So we end up just focusing on farming again. Once we do hit death cap, that's really going to be the sort of game changer for us when we can really one-shot kind of anyone. And hitting that 3-item spike is always extremely valuable. Hitting 2 items even is pretty good, but you can see here we try to go on the Kaisa again, end up getting caught. But we just have the ultimate. And that's a nice thing too. You can go for these picks because you have the ultimate. It was just such a broken ability and such a low cooldown. Notice how it's already 45 seconds at 10 minutes into the game. That is a low cooldown for such a broken ability. And it only becomes like lower and lower. In the late game, you can get it down to sometimes like 20-25 seconds, which is just absurd. And notice how much I'm playing around the side lane too. There's a couple of reasons for that. The first is that Varus really likes being in the mid lane as a champion because he has good wave clear. And he's, obviously long range, and so it's kind of easy for him to get caught out in the side lane. But in the mid lane, it's a lot harder for him to get caught out. So I'm happy for him to be there. And then again, assassins in general, they like being in the side lane in the mid game most of the time, if they can. Because you can just make a lot of plays on there. You can find a lot of picks. You can push out that side wave and actually have the survivability, whereas again, your ADC kind of doesn't. So that's kind of the nice thing for that. And then there's also this turret here. And I really wanted to get this turret, as you can kind of see me getting now. And so playing around that turret gets me that additional gold. And then now I'm like, okay, well, now I want to shift my focus to the mid lane because we just got that bot lane turret. We pushed out the bot wave, so I might as well go towards the mid lane. Even if I don't get the turret, I'm going to get this entire wave, which is obviously a bunch of gold for me as well. Keeping my gold per minute up. But then I see Kai'Sa's not here, and so I know I can instantly just go there, and I have my ultimate. So notice how I'm straight up using my ultimate just to get a turret. That was my entire mindset. I'm like, I'm just going to ult out. Perfectly fine with that. Perfectly safe, No hard feelings about that. My ultimate, again, pretty low cooldown. The enemy end up getting kind of greedy here too, so we end up finding the kills onto them. Shout out to the Varus there. And then I believe I messed up my flash here, so I don't want you guys to see this, but you're gonna have to see it, unfortunately. So we try to go onto the Kaisa, but she has the the cleanse. And then yeah, that's where I flashed into the wall. So you guys did not see that. That didn't happen. You were looking away, you were going to get a sip of water. Your girlfriend that you probably don't have texted you. I don't know, but you didn't see it. Either way, we still ended up getting the kills on them. It worked out fine. Nothing happened. My flash just randomly glitched. I don't know what happened to that, but after that, we're just going to go to the side lane now that we did still get a positive outcome from that fight, and we're going to go get our death cap from this wave. So now I have my death cap. We're on a really strong point, and we're still looking pretty fine. Now there's that top side turret, which is a thing we definitely could look to play for. There's a nice top wave there, and then there's that turret, so playing around there rather than going back to a side lane that's pushing up towards them anyways, it doesn't really make sense to go back there, right? Because we'd rather play around the turret. I kind of think of turrets as another objective, and so again, I can use this wave clear. You can see how quick I can clear waves in the mid game. Even in the early game, you can do this. And then now I'm like, okay, I have an angle to possibly push this turret. We see a lot of the mid lane, so I might as well just go for this turret, guarantee myself a bunch of gold, and hope my teammates don't run it down. Maybe they do run it down, but I'm just going to hope. I'm going to have some hope in them, hope they don't. And then I'm still going to be able to get there a little later after we get that entire turret, focusing to make sure we get a lot of gold in ourselves, and now we can land a potential second ability and stun combo here. But the fight just goes too poorly too quickly, and so now I decide I'm just going to have to try to stall this Baron. And so because my team made the mistake early of kind of running it down like that, I'm going to be trying to prevent Baron now, because I know that's what they're obviously going to do. They just killed 3 of us. What else would they do apart from try to do Baron? And so I'm just kind of sitting here with patience, waiting to pop this thing. And then I'm going to use my second ability. Notice how they're disjointed here. They're not all in the same spot. So I know there's a possibility for me to do something. We end up getting the kill onto Kaisa. Again, because of that awareness of what they're going to do, then I use my ultimate to get a bunch of damage onto the Hecarim. We kill the Hecarim. And then I don't think we kill Aurelia, but still, you can see that awareness, right? I know that they're going to go Baron because my teammates just made a huge mistake, like I said. And we're able to prevent them from actually getting that Baron, which is a completely game-winning play. I even get a couple kills, so I continue to get a bunch of gold from that. I'm on 12k gold, extremely fed at this point, and the enemy have to be worried about me. That Kaisa, who is really fed, no problem. I'm as fed as her now. And in the late game, I can be one-shotting her, so you can really see how that awareness kind of led to a really important play there. And then I'm skipping Crown, I think, and just going straight for the Soul Stealer, because I want that burst damage, and Soul Stealer is just such a good item. And Crown this game, it's not the most valuable ever, so I'm kind of fine with that. We also grabbed the Stasis, because I know Stasis is going to be really, really valuable, compared to just 1,000 gold that wouldn't even get me a full item. So I know for this fight, Stasis could potentially carry the fight. So I end up grabbing that to see if, it can potentially make any play for me. So now I'm just going to look for a second ability angle on someone, maybe get a stun. Just be patient. But my target priority is definitely going to be that Kai'Sa if possible. Because again, she is the problem. She is the one who's fed. And at this point in the game, I can potentially one-shot her. Camille goes in pretty quickly, but we just get the stun on her because of the fact that she went in. We get an ultimate on like 3 people there. And then use the stasis to stall a bit. Just go back into that Camille now. We don't really need to do too much more than that. We do end up winning the fight because that Camille goes a bit too overextended. But my team ends up getting really greedy onto that Kai'Sa, as you're going to kind of see here. And so we're trying to, again, we're focusing on that Kai'Sa. My second ability is going towards where the Kai'Sa might be. I'm trying to see if I can land a stun on her. Just really focusing on that kind of above all else. Rakan might be the worst player on the planet, I'm going to be honest with you, but it is what it is. Luckily, that Kai'Sa does end up dying, going a bit too far forward there. But seriously, what are these Rakan engages? Like, I don't really, I'm not like trying to flame my teammate because like I don't really mind to this game happened like a week ago. I don't even care at this point. But like, these Rakan engages are very unique. I'm going to say that. And we look to see if we can find a possible ultimate. A little tip that you might want to know about the ultimate, because sometimes it's hard to actually tell if you can land your ultimate or not, or where your ultimate is. If you just kind of like hold the side, like the edge of the circle of your ultimate ability, if that makes sense, you can show the icon of where it is. Like it shows the big circle to see where it's going to land. And so that's kind of a nice little thing I do. If you hold down the middle of the ultimate, it will show like the description of the ability. So you don't want to do that. But if you just hold down the edge of it, like if you slide your hand from the middle of it or your thumb from the middle to the edge, then it kind of shows you the like where the ultimate's going to go. That might not have made sense to people. I don't mind. That's not the biggest tip in the world. But if that did make sense to anyone, then you're welcome. And yeah, if it didn't, my bad. Either way, again, we're just focusing constantly target priority, focused on that Kai'Sa, hovering the Baron, just using vision to see if we can find an angle. Notice how I'm kind of looking for a possible ult at all times. Notice how my Rakan is just always just trying to run it down at all times because that's just what they do, I guess. And we just, again, play around our second ability. That second ability shield is a big important thing in the early or in the late game. That shield is huge and can definitely make or break whether or not you survive. So you really got to make sure you get a lot of value out of that, even if you don't end up getting the stun from it. Obviously, the stun's really nice too. So try throwing it out of vision. Notice how I ult because I'm just trying to get this killed as quickly as possible. Like, I don't actually care about winning this. I just care about getting the Baron and getting out. So I just ulted for damage. I didn't care about fighting. Now, in hindsight, I think I might have been able to just save my ult there and fought. But my thought process definitely was that I wanted to just get the damage on the Baron. But yeah, I don't know if that was necessarily the best play. Either way, you can see my ult's already basically back up, so it's kind of fine. We end up looking for this Nami here. I believe we do kill her. You can see that damage is pretty absurd. And now we want to see if we can fight with our ultimate onto the Camille. But her damage is pretty dang high. Another tip as well that you just saw there, and I missed my flash, but again, the flash is not the best today. Either way, another tip is that you can actually use your third ability and then ultimate, and you'll be able to get the dash off with your ultimate. So it's a really nice thing to kind of get additional damage whenever you can. And we do end up killing that Camille there. So you can just see the overall carrying that we're doing in the later parts of the game. Now we're on to 4 items. And a lot of that is because we focused on gold really well in the side lane. Like that time where I ended up getting the top turret instead of going and helping my team who were inting in mid lane. That ended up getting me a bunch of gold. And again, that focus on consistency and everything allows me to be very fed. Again, the target priority has been really important too, making sure that the fed AD carry doesn't have an easy time playing the game. And then here we just go and we one-shot the Hecarim. You can see this late game damage, guys. Like, this is durability patch. It's already live, and I have that much damage. And then there is the combo. I want to go back on this. Watch what I did here. This is the combo I was talking to you guys about. Watch me third ability and then ultimate onto Kai'Sa. Really clean ultimate here. Look, I throw my stun there. Third ability, ultimate, and then boom, I dash onto him right away. So that's another thing you can try to do. Try to get your your second ability onto where your ultimate's going to land, and then you land directly in your ultimate. You stun them right away. It's really OP combo. I really want you guys to pay attention to that combo because that can be one of the things you can get used to once you get better on Ekko. Early on, you don't necessarily need to try that too much. It's a little bit like tough sometimes to execute properly, but once you start feeling more confident on the champion, I definitely recommend doing that. And I try to land the ultimate here for funsies. We don't land it, but it's all right. So that's going to be it for the Ekko gameplay, guys. Again, I hope that this was valuable for you. Ekko, definitely one of my favorite champions on the patch. Definitely the best assassin on the patch. So if you're an assassin player and you feel like some of your assassins have been hit really hard, but you still want to play that type of playstyle, definitely try out Ekko. He's really great in the jungle as well. I have a jungle video from a couple weeks ago on him as well. And yeah, I will see you guys later.